When you think of classic fighting games, one of the first games that comes to mind is Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64. It was the year 1999, and a small gaming company by the name of Nintendo released some pretty groundbreaking games for their current console at the time, such as Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. On the side, a young developer by the name of Masahiro Sakurai came up with the idea for Super Smash Bros. And worked with Satoru Iwata to help bring the idea to life. Lacking the original line of characters that were memorable, they decided to borrow some from Nintendo without asking them. Luckily, they approved the idea, and after its release, Super Smash Bros. Received critical acclaim for its fun and masterful gameplay. With endless hours of entertainment, over the course of years, we have received multiple sequels, including Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube, a game to this day that is played in competitive esports scenes. We also received Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Nintendo Wii, and of course Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS for their respective titles. The most recent installment, along with the most impressive, being Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which includes every single character in nearly all stages from the previous entries. I can't imagine what length Nintendo went through both on the development side as well as the licensing, since we have icons from Nintendo, Sega, Microsoft, and even some from the Sony line of consoles such as Cloud Strife and Sora from Kingdom Hearts. However, with every great game series comes eventually another that tries to emulate the success. Smash clones have been appearing more recently in the forms of games such as Multiversus, PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale, and of course the topic of today's video, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl. So, how does this hold up? Well, let's talk about it. Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl is a 4-player brawler akin to Smash Bros, but of course focusing on the intellectual properties from Nintendo. I will give the game some credit. It has quite the array of characters that cover the entire landscape of the Nicktoons throughout the years. Some older characters from Real Monsters all the way to the more recent shows such as The Loud House. Each character, of course, has her own stage and a custom moveset akin to what you would expect for them to use. For example, Danny Phantom often uses the powers he's obtained through his journey and the gear from his family, such as the Fenton Thermos. Korra, being the Avatar, uses the elements in her battles. So for longtime fans of these shows, it has a sense of nostalgia that really helps add for the feel of the game. Of course, you have different type of characters as well, such as builds more for speed, such as Aang from Avatar The Last Airbender, and the bulky characters such as Reptar from Rugrats. Combat for the most part is what you would expect. You can run, jump, use a variety of light attacks that are generally quicker and deal less overall damage, slower, more powerful attacks that are great for launching your foes off the screen to get a point or reduce their stock, and of course, the special moves. The special moves are very much different depending on the characters due to what they can do. Some may be projectile based and some might be more for recovery to save yourself from falling off the edge. There's a whole mixed bag there to explore, which helps create a drive to check out all the characters and find one that really resonates with you. The combat at launch, I remember feeling a bit off. However, it feels the game is much smoother than I remember. Actually, one of the more pleasant surprises I can safely say returning to the game has actually received updates from the start to now. For example, the game actually didn't have any voice acting at all, which left it feeling a bit more hollow since there was less things happening during combat with the characters being less expressive. Not only did the game not launch with voice acting, but lacked some other chaotic elements such as items. Items for 4-player games such as this I feel are always a welcome addition. It can create some very unexpected moments to turn the tide of battle to your favor. You can also toggle the frequency of drop items before the match starts. I would advise keeping it to low to mid at most. Having it at high is a bit much personally. We also got even some new features that help tailor to speedrunners, introducing a built-in timer for the arcade mode. Now that's impressive. I love when a game add features like this. It really shows them going out of their way to add elements for both the more casual scene and the more intense gaming scene. This also allows you to map out the buttons to your liking. I actually got a lot of mileage off this one alone by mapping the buttons of the controls more similar to Smash Brothers. By doing this, it helped me not making the constant mistakes from when I switched between Smash Bros, to Nicktoons All-Stars Brawl. This game has come a long way on creating a personal experience, and I want to take a moment to recognize that. I played this game actually close on launch date, initially on the PlayStation 5. I figured since I played Balan Wonderworld on the same console, I might as well add some more insult to injury. Online play, when you can do it, is actually very smooth. One of my biggest complaints with the Smash Bros. Ultimate is that the internet connection was always inconsistent. Games like these require stable connections, so having slight hiccups persistent on Ultimate always deter me from having a good online experience. However, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl actually uses rollback netcode, which provides a near seamless experience. It's a night and day experience that works really well. However, with all this in mind, I still gotta say there are a few things in this game it's hard to overlook. The visuals are a bit inconsistent. Some models I feel look really well, such as XJ9, and other models are a bit off, kind of going back to Danny Phantom. Sure, I understand you can only do so much taking a 2D character and making it to a 2.5 dimensional view, but I feel like they could have done a bit more justice for Danny and others to add some finer little details to help really bring out the full picture. Another issue with the game presents itself lacking of diversification. Even with the Smash Bros. On Nintendo 64, through the single-player campaign, if you could call it that, there was a bit of mix of fighting levels, platforming levels, breaking the targets, and fights that focus more on many versus one versus the 1v1, which often would cause you to change gears and want to take out the 30 characters in one go as fast as possible. However, with Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, every mode is basically the same, fighting up to 3 characters, even including an arcade mode. It's a pseudo-constant brawl session where you have some influence on where you will go, but that's it, and it also just feels the same, just constantly fighting. Something else having been thrown into the mix would allow you to have a little bit of a breath of fresh air before going back into the gauntlet of just constant fighting with very little deviation. There is a sub-fighting style you can play called Sports, which is basically where the game throws a ball into the center of the level and you're actively trying to knock it out towards the other side of the map, which I admit could be a bit of fun and has promise. However, it's very hard to actually move it in a different direction than where it's already going, especially if there's multiple players on the screen trying to prevent you from having any control of the ball. Plus, it basically makes fighting less important, since even when playing in this mode, you can easily win just by using a strong attack on the ball and having it go off the screen to be able to get one goal. And since there isn't a specific net to aim for, it's nearly impossible not to score on a consistent basis. Aside from that, I wish the game also did a bit more to set itself apart from the other Smash clones. Multiversus is a great example. It's a free-to-play game, and it also has an interesting team setup where you can do some 1v1 and 2v2, and some characters are considered more of a support role, which vastly changes on how you handle them depending on the scenario being 1v1 versus 2v2. For example, if you're using Rain Dog. However, Nicktoons All-Stars Brawl takes a safe approach and allows team matches. However, it feels more or less what Smash has been doing for years. Another thing to mention, at least for the Switch version, is the load times. I don't know why, but this game has longer load times than I would have expected, considering what needs to be loaded and set up. Sometimes the load times can take up to 5 to 10 seconds just to load the match or move into the following match for arcade style. I've only done testing on the PlayStation 5 version and the Switch version, so I can't say much on the Steam version or the Xbox variants, but in comparison between the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 5, of course, is much faster. In comparison to load times for the Switch, it's nearly 3 times as long to load the same type of fight. Not a deal breaker for me, but personally, it is something to be mindful of. All in all, from launch till now, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl is a fine addition to the terms of Smash clone. It had a bit of a bare start. However, with all the updates implemented by the developer, it's safe to say this can be a fun experience. Considering it's also nearly for every console for both the 8th and 9th generation, it is one of the more accessible Smash clones out there. Sadly, there is not crossplay at this time of this upload, nor am I finding any sources of this being considered for the game. With the long history standing of the Nickelodeon characters, solid gameplay, and nostalgia up the butt, it's a great time for any fans of Nintendo and Smash clones and party games in general. This game is often on sale across different consoles. I actually picked this up at launch for the PlayStation 5 physical, and more recently for the Switch Digital with all the DLC in the game included for around under $12. At this price point, it's a fantastic buy. However, anything else above $30, I would be sure to do some homework. While not as complex as Smash Bros. Or even Multiversus at that, it still holds value in terms of being more fun, casual side of the 4-player knocking out of the arena experience. Thanks for watching, everyone. To be honest, I never expected to do a review for this game. However, after re-picking up this game for the Switch due to heavy price cut and with all the changes added since launch day, both in terms of free patches and also paid DLC, I wanted to discuss this game in case anyone forgot about the game and wanted to inform those that this game isn't quite the same as it used to be. It's far better. That being said, I would give this maybe around a 7 on a really good day. However, on every other day, probably a 6.5 to 6, depending on how I'm feeling impatient about the Switch's load times. Let me know down in the comments section below if you've experienced this with this game and who your main character is. On launch, I was actually dedicated using Danny Phantom. However, I have switched it over to XJ9. If you're enjoying the content of the channel, please hit that subscribe button. I'm hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and every subscriber does help get us closer to that goal, and I would be very grateful. I have a lot of plans for this channel, and I hope you're there for the ride as well. Take it easy, everyone. Peace.